Hello, YouTube and Wooper Club fans. It's me, FruitTaco, coach of the Route 1 Birbs, bringing you the feature match from Week 4 of WCL Season 14. This is a match featuring myself, my Birbs, going up against the Cincinnati Incineroar, who have already been featured on the feature match this season, so you know they're doing something right. And as a special treat, I've actually got the coach of the Incineroar with me to break this down. How's it going, man?
Hey everyone, I'm doing all right. It's a pleasure to be here with you, Fruit Taco, as usual whenever I come and guest star. So yeah, pretty much like you said, for my team to be featured twice so early on in the season, we must have a good one for you. So hope you're all ready for what we've got in store here.
Yeah, without further ado, let's jump into things. The Route 1 Birbs are made of Weavile, Ogerpon, Wellspring form specifically, Latias, Terrakion, Thunderous Therian, Volcarona, Toedscruel, Milotic, Galarian Weezing, King Gambit, and Reuniclus, going up against the Incineroar with Serperior, Typhlosion, Iron Crown, Indeedee Female, Kommo-o, Illumise, Necrozma, Smeargle, Ursaluna Bloodmoon, Glastrier, and Hatterene. So when I was kind of approaching this matchup, I was looking at just starting off with speeds, and I definitely have the advantage in kind of speed initially. Weavile is the fastest. I've got more things above base 100, but like against a team that's definitely oriented towards Trick Room options, Prankster Tailwind, boosting options for like Kommo-o with like a Clingerous Soul or Iron Crown Booster Energy, I definitely don't think I'm going to have the advantage for all of the match in terms of speed. I was definitely looking at all the different things that your team can kind of go for and feeling like I kind of needed to plan counters or at least, ways to kind of compete in some of those things against stuff like Trick Room, Tailwind, just general Psychic Spam. Looking at your team defensively, there's a lot of types that aren't particularly well resisted that I could take advantage of. So I think, my plan was just, I need to disrupt your game plan and then just hammer at you with offense, because definitely I don't think my bulk can survive your offense if it gets set up properly. Against only 2 fire resists, one being Frail Typhlosion, I think Volcarona looks very good. Thunderous also looks good, with Ursaluna being the best electric answer, and easy coverage taking care of that and other things. Weezing will be good support with Neutralizing Gas or Misty Surge to combat Psychic Terrain. And then Reuniclus is also a potential option as far as making use of my opponent's Trick Room and Psychic Terrain and trying to, kind of compete decently if all that stuff gets set up, not be completely out of options. So, yeah, no, I was looking at, I felt like I'm either going to be in control for most of the game or probably just going to get destroyed immediately because, yeah, like I said, I think my only shot is to not let you get your kind of plans in motion. Definitely scared about Ursaluna and Kommo-o in particular. Indeedee and Illumise will probably be there for support. Hatterene will come if you plan to go with Trick Room, and then I don't know, maybe Necrozma or Iron Crown was probably the last one I was expecting from your side. What did you kind of see when you looked at the matchup?
Yeah, to me, it kind of looks like the two teams have elements of broadly two of the different main archetypes that we look at in particular doubles formats. So the Birbs have a lot of what I would consider more balance oriented Pokemon. Looking specifically at Ogerpon Wellspring, yes, it can be a very offensive and fast threat, but in terms of its redirection, amazing defensive typing, as well as the ability to capitalize off of its terrestrialization for some added defense, as well as offense. Um, I could see that being a cornerstone here. Whether it's like follow me to like get a tailwind up with Latias, or follow me to get some quiver dance with Volcarona, or um, really anything else that you want to do here. However, as you mentioned on my team, I've got much more of like a hyper offense mode, but not just like from one direction,
Mhm.
because I could be going super fast, leading tailwind, just going for damage right away, or I could be going to set Trick Room. And so for you to like have a dedicated lead into my team, it's very tricky because like yes, you may have a little bit more on the bulkier side, but if you get it wrong into like what kind of lead I'm going to do, it could snowball against you very quickly. Thankfully, as you mentioned, you do have Reuniclus and King Gambit there to kind of mitigate if I went the full side spam mode. Reuniclus notably speed tying or even underspeeding some of my Trick Room threats here to maybe take advantage of expanding force and Trick Room um, from my setup Psychic Terrain. And basically, I don't know. You got a lot of different modes here that could punish what I do, but it does kind of seem like you have to play kind of reactively into like what my lead is. And so it's an interesting matchup, and I think that like it definitely kind of depends on like what we bring and like how we play into that, and then as you mentioned, speed control kind of on both sides. I mean, you could even set your own trick room if you really wanted to, like with the Reuniclus. So um, plenty of options as far as different types of offensive and defensive modes. In particular, I mean, you've kind of got both sides, but both sides of offense from my side. So
Yeah. Was there
interesting.
anything kind of in particular game plan wise you like identified as like particularly good for you, or were you just kind of like you've got all these different modes, just bring them, and then as long as you can get one set up, you're going to be in a good position?
So I figured that wheezing would be a threat that could maybe shut down like my side spam stuff, and so I wanted to make sure that I was ready for that. As we'll see later when we get into the team construction. But other than that, honestly, I did kind of disrespect this matchup a little bit. I hate to say, I did just kind of want to click buttons with Smeargle, and so I threw a bunch of funny moves on him, and then kind of built the team after that to still like have enough to what I figured would be good enough to win. Um, and then we'll see how that affects how this played out and everything. But um, yeah, I have now. I have spoilers for going forward. Since dropped Smeargle, this was the one and only week. Actually, no, I think I could bring it week 5, but that's beside the point. I have my fun, and other than that, I have some other funny guys that I just want to click buttons with. And so yeah, yeah. I was definitely it was on my mind that King Gambit could sit there and like just totally wall like Iron Crown and stuff, and that Reuniclus would like underspeed Blood Moon, but like I wanted to bring Blood Moon just because I hadn't yet. So I don't know. I was kind of like locked into like new toy syndrome
Okay.
more than like the matchup itself. But
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, I know, disrespect taken. I definitely felt like the underdog in the match. I don't my team has a lot of things that, I think there's room for improvement in the draft, and I think yours is very good, and you've been playing a great season, and I haven't been playing a particularly great season. So, yeah, no, I definitely felt like the underdog, and I definitely understand you just being like, I'm just going to go and then click buttons and we'll see how it goes. So, I guess with that out of the way, let's go and see what we each actually brought. Okay, so here are my 6 Pokemon. We're going to start things off with Reuniclus. It's a max HP and special attack with a quiet nature to reduce speed and boost special attack. This is only going to be undersped by minimum speed Hatterene. So, this was kind of just my, alright, if Trick Room sets up, I need to not be helpless in it. I've got Magic Guard with Life Orb and Terra Psychic Expanding Force to also make use of opposing Psychic terrain. Shadow Ball is going to hit the Psychic types, and then Helping Hand will function as support outside of Trick Room, and then, just Protect being Protect. Yeah, this was something I felt pretty kind of forced into bringing just because I needed to be able to not be helpless in Trick Room or Psychic terrain. King Gambit, is quite slow. I looked at things like Room Service, but he just wasn't quite slow enough. And there were just too many things that, with Psychic terrain, I couldn't be Sucker Punching outside of Trick Room. It just felt really awkward. Good in the matchup, but just awkward to use, and I felt like I kind of needed to be consistent and strong from the start. Next up is Thunderous. Max special attack, modest nature, 240 in speed to outspeed modest Iron Crown and timid Komodo. Choice specs, Terra Electric boosted Wild Bolt Storm and Volt Switch to be throwing off huge damage. Grass Knot to cover Ursaluna, and then Flash Cannon was just kind of random coverage. Hits Hatterene, hits Glastrier, and this was kind of one of the pieces that I kind of built from. I started with the calcs, and it was like, this thing is absolutely shredding the non-resists on your team with Helping Hand. Wild Bolt Storm, at worst, two-shots everything that isn't Ursaluna, and is a 63% chance to just straight up OHKO max HP Hatterene. So that tells you just how much power this thing has. Volt Switch gives me something accurate to click as well as momentum. Like I said, Grass Knot covers Ursaluna, and then, yeah, I could have gone with some other stuff besides Flash Cannon, stuff like Psychic, which really only hits Komodo. Dark Pulse could hit the Psychic types, but they already take a lot from the electric moves. I settled on Flash Cannon because it helped against Hatterene, was good neutral coverage to kind of lock myself into in the late game. But, you know, I think the plan with this was just click Specs Wild Bolt Storm and watch HP go away. Next up is Galarian Wheezing. I've got max HP, near max special defense, modest nature with a couple speed EVs just in case Ursaluna tries to creep it if for some reason you're not going hard Frick Room with it. Shucka Berry and Terra Dark let me potentially live against various super effective attacks coming at me. Neutralizing Gas is going to turn off Psychic Surge, Prankster, Flash Fire, Quark Drive, Contrary, all kinds of annoying abilities from your Pokemon. Then we've got Dazzling Gleam and Sludge Bomb offering general damage and covering Komodo and Hatterene. Haze could get rid of Calm Minds or a Clanger's Soul Boost, and then Protect to keep the neutralizing gas around as long as possible. Making this thing, I really wish it learned Helping Hand. It doesn't, which was really annoying. I'm pretty happy with the set anyways, but like Helping Hand over Haze would have been really, really nice. But yeah, neutralizing gas and a halfway decent Komodo answer is really all this is around all I need for it. The Modest is kind of funny without any special attack investment, but it does have a chance to OHKO max HP Komodo and Hatterene with the super effective stab options. So, you know, it's something. Next up is Weavile, max attack with 176 EVs in speed, jolly nature to outspeed everything with a little bit extra just in case of tailwind creepers, and then the rest in HP. Heavy duty boots is generally useful without really a particularly better item on it. I already have the covert cloak somewhere else. Terra Dark knockoff is going to smack the psychic types. Ice Spinner hits certain weaknesses and can clear that psychic terrain. Icy Wind helps counter things like Tailwind, and then Taunt can shut down something like Illumise. If its Prankster is shut down by neutralizing gas, I can outspeed and taunt it. Weavile was just surprisingly good looking into this matchup. It has so much random utility between its speed, stabs, support move pool. It's pretty much useful in so many different situations against so many different things. I was surprised at how many options when I was building this I actually had. Then is Volcarona, 120 special attack EVs, max special defense, 136 EVs, and a timid nature to outspeed timid Komodo. The general lack of physical offense on your team means that I'm just focusing on special defense to be able to live and keep Quiver Dancing more than once, combined with Terra Steel for resistance and the Citrus Berry for a little extra bulk. Heat Wave, Bug Buzz, and Psychic hits and covers really everything. At +2 with Helping Hand, Heat Wave OHKOs things like max HP Hatterene and max HP Ursaluna. So this combined with the Thunderous were kind of my offensive core pieces. Was, you know, I need to get one of these in a good position with the support and kind of like disruption of your game plan, and then just start clicking buttons, and hopefully I can wear you down as you're trying to kind of get your plans reestablished. This is a little bit more annoying than Thunderous because it needs to set up, but with the special defense boosts, it becomes really hard for your team to kill without stuff like random physical coverage, and destroys pretty much any mon except for Typhlosion. And then last is Latias. I've got max HP, 184 speed EVs, timid nature to outspeed Typhlosion, with the rest in special defense. Covert Cloak to be immune to Fake Out, since I will be floating above psychic terrain. Terra Steel to resist Dragon and Fairy moves. Tailwind and Helping Hand to support my attackers. Shadow Ball and then Draco Meteor to hit Hatterene, Komodo, and the rest of the team if needed. And this was just kind of another bulky support piece with enough offense to help clear the way for Volcarona and Thundurus, as well as making sure I have a way to match Tailwind if you get it set up. I'm pretty happy with how the team turned out, considering how at a disadvantage I felt while starting to prep. This team is a little, I won't say gimmicky, but definitely needs good play to make work, though. Wheezing is going to be the key to kind of disrupting any plans you try and have, and then I just have to keep one step ahead since your team is so synergy-based. If I make a mistake in what, I'm expecting to come to the match or how I play and fall behind, this team doesn't have particularly good ways to kind of come back from, kind of falling behind early. So this is really going to kind of be demanding on my play from the start of the match. What do you think about kind of what I ended up with here?
Yeah, so when I first saw the team at team preview, I remember being like flabbergasted that King Gambit wasn't there because in my mind that was like the hardest counter to what I had. But hearing you talk about like why everything is here definitely does contextualize things a lot. And it does seem. I mean, you have Weavile as like a dark type, and as you mentioned, you kind of like in this case probably prefer speed to just like the general utility of like King Gambit, especially like you said, if you end up not being able to like click Sucker Punch, that could be a little devastating. And so the fast taunt is cool, and then Wheezing, like I mean, as you mentioned, it can shut down like all different kinds of stuff, like the Prankster, the psychic terrain. Even if like I had a booster that I wanted to try and like take advantage of, like that wouldn't activate. And if I did try and go superior, then like that is now suddenly extremely risky. And so there is an item that can combat that, but I can only have it on one of my Pokemon. And so really just like I don't know, that Pokemon in general does put a lot of pressure out there that I do need to respect and just like consider how every interaction is going to go more than usual because you never know when your ability is going to be shut off and like you miss a KO or like something like that. And I remember I think at one point like the Reuniclus took life orb damage and I was like, oh, I guess it's not Magikarp. No,
Yeah,
actually it's just not
Dragon,
Magikarp
it
because
came
there's
in and
neutralizing gas
took
in the
Stealth
field.
Rocks.
Yeah. So yeah, that was I don't know. It's definitely an interesting team, and I think it like you had the right idea, like crafting this and everything. Although I do want to just say that while Thundurus is extremely scary, you said the worst thing that could happen is like a 2-hit KO or something like that. But I think the worst thing that could happen is you miss Bolt Storm every time you click it. But you know, uh, that's just the fun of how these moves go.
Look,
And
my team has Wild Bolt Storm, Heat Wave, and Rock Slide spam. I just don't I just won't miss. Like I just when
exactly.
I was drafting my team, I have triple Axle on Weavile, Draco. I just accepted when I was drafting. It's like I just don't miss things. That's
Yeah.
we just won't miss this season.
Yeah, I will simply hit. Yeah, that and like I don't know. It's interesting you mentioned like the triple axle and how like the ice spinner in this matchup is, you know, so much more like optimal choice
Yeah.
to clear the terrain and everything. So that's very cool as well. I think the right call there. And yeah, it's funny that you had the boots because like up until this week I've totally like disrespected setting hazards. But that might come in handy here. Who knows?
Yeah,
So
who knows? Who knows? Yeah, against me with, a Volcarona and a Thundurus and a Weavile. Yeah, rocks might be okay.
yeah, maybe.
All right, but let's move on to what you're bringing. All right, and here is what you're bringing. Walk us through what you came up with.
Yeah, so like I kind of mentioned already, I had a couple of Pokemon that I hadn't used yet, some of which I've had since the beginning of the season, others that I had just recently picked up and just like wanted to try out. And so I don't know. I'm gonna be honest, I was like sitting at Taco Bell and I was building this team and I was just like, I really want to use Smeargle. What's the weirdest but somehow still viable set I can come up with for it? And then just like kept throwing stuff in the builder like on my phone and just kind of trusted that it would be fine. The vibes were horrible, but we came up with a team here. So I've got Ursaluna Blood Moon making its debut on my team this season. I figured, you know, I didn't need to be minus speed, because if you did bring Reuniclus, then you'd be underspeeding it anyway. So maybe if I like needed to go a tailwind mode, like just having the 31 and not minus nature would be
Yeah.
good. So modest, seemed to fulfill what I was looking for there. Plus the Terra Normal to just go crazy. A Blood Moon Terra Normal can just kill
Yeah.
almost anything that's not resisted. And if you do resist that, then Earth Power will hit you. So unless you're like Terra Steel Latias or something. So um, and then yeah, Indeedee pretty standard. Although since I was so afraid of like your dark types and everything, and potential to manipulate terrain and all that, I did not want to go with Iron Crown this week. I figured I had better options because like if you did have King Gambit in front of it, then I would basically be forced to like Terra or just like rip a Focus Blast, which I don't always love having to do. So I figured I would use it as just support and maybe try something a little different. Because I always put Trick Room on Indeedee, but I never really click it. Usually it's just redirecting for the other Pokemon to click. But here, if you can see a little further down, I do have the Follow Me on the Smeargle as well. So if I wanted to lead those two, then I could have Follow Me on the Smeargle and get the Trick Room up there, or depending on what you lead, I can, or just like what you bring and what I want to lead in response to that, I can click any one of my other three wonderful moves here, which are very funny. Decorate, of course, fun thing to lock into with a Scarf. Goes through Protect, so if I want to just sit there, turn one, Protect, you don't have redirection out, then I can set something up, which could be fun. Although obviously if you led with your Ogre Palm Wellspring, I'm never clicking that, because if you redirect my Decorate, then suddenly I'm very scared. So yeah, and then Stone Axe, I thought it was just like a funny move in general to like do damage and set up the Stealth Rock on your side of the field. In particular because you had Volcarona, and I figured that the odds of you bringing boots on it weren't like amazing if you did.
Yeah.
Turned out I was right there. Although you did have it on the Weavile, which saved you a little bit of chip. And then of course Stone Axe can miss. However, the own tempo prevents the Intimidate drop, which is, I don't know, it was like the only usable ability the first Miracle. So yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I just threw something in there.
Yeah.
Terra Ghost just to be immune to Fake Out should you bring it. And then Komodo. This time, yeah, I had like no speed investment here just because I figured it like it can kind of come in when it wants to, and then hopefully have like Tailwind support or redirection support or something. Plus, like, I mean, it's got pretty good bulk too, and so
Yeah.
I can just like set up, and then even though I've like taken a chip to my HP, like now my defenses are higher, and so I don't know. It didn't feel like it needed any speed. Just like looking at the speed tiers on your team,
Yeah.
and then theoretically, like if I wanted to use it like under Trick Room without setting up, then I could still like rip that too. Just some raw clanging scales could still do a lot of damage. Still gives me the boost with Throat Spray without having to click Clangor Soul, which is kind of neat. And then yeah, Illumise, pretty standard set here, except I went with the Focus Dash instead of the Covert Cloak this week. Honestly, the main reason for that was because I wanted the Covert Cloak on Hatterene, as you can see there, just in case like you decided to lead, like you mentioned, with Terrakion and like launch a Rock Slide, and then like suddenly I flinch, don't get
Yeah.
Trick Room up, and then like I'm just screwed. So I wanted that there. That was pretty much the only reason for that. Unless hypothetically I like let it outside of Psychic Terrain and like you fake me out or something. But Figure Sash is good on Illumise. Like it usually dies in a hit or two. But in this case, I can protect myself with Psychic Terrain if I want, so I don't need the Covert Cloak, and like can still get a move or two off. Encore is always funny, although obviously it doesn't really work in Psychic Terrain, so just gotta like keep my positioning. Helping Hand is good. U-turn, set the tailwind, get out of there. Just good utility moves. I felt like I needed both Tailwind and Trick Room in this to kind of keep you on your toes, and so that's kind of how this team came to be constructed after I decided the guys that I wanted to click buttons with. So
Yeah, no, I one team building thing that surprises me, and that's no flash cannon on Komodo, because this set just gets walled by wheezing, which, like you said, is probably going to be a pretty core part of my game plan. So I think that was just an interesting choice. All four moves, make sense and are good on it. Just I was expecting there'd be flash cannon somewhere on the set. And then, how did you decide on putting the ability shield on Indeedee instead of Illumise? Because, you only have the one psychic terrain abuser with the Hatterene, who, I mean, of course, likes the terrain, but I felt like Tailwind for Komodo, and as well as, just kind of other utility moves Indeedee could have had. I right before, like a half hour before the match, I looked at the speed tiers and like came up with the terrifying realization that like I don't know if it was like max speed. I don't know if it needed to be timid or not, but like max speed Ursaluna in Tailwind outspeeds my entire team. And I was like, oh, he's just gonna like click Tailwind, and I'm just gonna die to Specs the hyper voices in Tailwind. But you didn't. You went with the Trick Room uh option there. So kind of do you have any ideas kind of how you can?
Yeah, so I figured like if I did want to commit to just like leading Indeedee and Hatterene, which I figured there was a decent chance I'd want to,
Uh huh.
then that looked like a pretty good mode, and if I could get the Trick Room off, then your Reuniclus still doesn't underspeed
Yeah.
Hatterene, so I can like do a lot of damage, and like even if you hit me back, like you're probably not one KOing. Yeah, I pretty much just like of all the abilities that I have, like yeah, I mean Prankster is a good one to like have online, but I don't know. The Trick Room mode in general just did seem more appealing to me, and so I
Sure.
kind of wanted that to be a full strength. So that's why I put that there. I could have easily put it somewhere else, but it was just kind of like a judgment call, and I think that I'm
Oh,
happy with it.
yeah. No.
And then it's interesting that you mentioned the like Komodo getting walled by Wheezing because like honestly like I I mean I might have like thought of that, but like that wasn't really the main thing I thought about. Obviously, I have the Terra Steel on it, so like if I wanted to, I could just like do that, and then like Weezing can't do much back. But
Uh huh.
I think I just needed Aura Sphere more to like hit Kingambit if it were there, and
Yeah.
then like whatever is next to Komodo can probably just like chunk the Weezing. While Komodo sits there relatively unthreatened, although you do have Haze, which is could have been scary. So um, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It just kind of made sense with what I was going for here. Obviously could have moved things around, done anything different, but that was just what I was thinking at the time.
Yeah, no, I mean that was all of the decisions you made. I think were really good ones. Just curious, kind of how you arrived at those ones over some of the alternatives. And I gotta say, for random Taco Bell team, this is really really well put together.
Yeah, you got me thinking about going after this again. Maybe crank
Yo,
out my
Taco Bell
team for this
sponsor
week.
us.
Yeah, not sponsored.
There. All right. Well, with that, let's jump into the match and see how it all went down.
All right.
All right, and here's the match. I kind of hear at team preview. This is pretty much what I expected you to bring. The smear goal could be annoying, but honestly, potentially less so than stuff like a setup Necrozma or something. Since I have a fairly offensive game plan. I have lots of attacks that hit both opponents, so it shouldn't stick around too long. And then I'm kind of seeing this, and it looks like Thunderous and Wheezing is a pretty safe lead into everything here. How were you kind of thinking about the leads and stuff? Kind of, you said you were a little bit taken aback by what I brought. How did that kind of factor into your initial game plan?
Yeah, so not seeing King Gambit, I don't know. I mean, the size spam mode did seem a little safer than I initially thought, but seeing the Volcarona in particular, I really just wanted to like lead Smeargle, like use Stone Axe, and then like let it die, and then figured at the same time if I lead it next to Indeedee, then I can go for a Trick Room that same turn, which would do like pretty much both of the things that I kind of wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and even if like somehow Indeedee doesn't get the Trick Room up, then I still have like Hatterene coming in the back who could set it, or I can just like completely shift gears altogether, bring in Illumise or whatever. So I just figured that gave me like the most options against specifically what you had. And then like, if you have Volcarona in the back, it takes the rocks damage when it comes in unless you have the boots on it. And if you lead it, then you're just taking the Stone Axe head on. So
Yeah.
seemed like good start for me.
All right. So yeah, we'll see Smeargle and Indeedee leading off into Thunderous and Wheezing, neutralizing gas, and then we do see the ability shield, meaning that the psychic terrain does go up. Stone Axe gets up the rocks, and then huge damage, as I said, from Wild Bolt Storm and the Dazzling Gleam, bringing Indeedee low, and then Ursaluna is in Trick Room, and I start to get pretty worried here, because yeah, this thing is... Trick Room is up, and I don't have great options for it. I'm probably going to have to sack something here. And so I'm also locked into Wild Bolt Storm. Of course, don't want to keep spamming that into the ground type. Volcarona, like you said, I don't have the boots. Rocks are up. It seems relatively expendable because, Iron Crown isn't here. I don't necessarily need the fire coverage. The rest of my offense looks pretty good into the team you brought. So, I'm thinking probably just sack that, bring in Volcarona, take half, the Terra Normal right away with the Helping Hand. Definitely why I was afraid of this thing. Protect, get Volcarona out as a sack, and now Reuniclus is into Underspeed and kind of make use of your own Trick Room and Psychic Terrain. Why did you go with the early Terra commitment here? Was that to get a potential Oko on Wheezing?
Yeah, I figured if that was out of the way, then it kind of made the rest of the battle a little easier to navigate. And so in retrospect, I probably should have just ripped an Earth Power in that direction, especially since I knew that the from the calc of how much damage you did with the Wild Bolt Storm that you had to be specs, and so I could have not Terra'd, just force you to switch out into something, target the Wheezing, and then that way if I don't get the kill, then it's okay, because now Volcarona's sitting there doing nothing, and
Yeah.
I can just click Earth Power again the next turn. And so, not gonna lie, when you got to this board position here, I knew I was kind of against the wall, because you're taking advantage of my own terrain and Trick Room to probably take 2 KOs here, which I don't have a whole lot to do. I don't have a Dark type to switch in. I could bring in Hatterene, but it's gonna lose half its health, barely under speeds. Is it worth it, or do I just bring it in for free the next turn?
Yeah.
So.
I was yeah, if you had gone for the Earth Power there, that would have been... I would have been in a real tricky situation with just a half HP Volcarona and no Protect on Wheezing. But yeah, no, I felt confident going that because I expected you to be not Life Orb, but be Choice Specs. And so I was like, all right, he's just going to fire off a big attack, take the sack. And yeah, so now, like you said, I'm feeling pretty good here. Helping Hand is going to go off, but Expanding Force going to barely avoid taking 2 KOs, but Wheezing will pick up the second. The Expanding Force was about, the calc says, about a 75% chance to KO Ursaluna there. So a little bit of luck on my part, but still favorable. And now Hatterene and Illumise come out, and I'm feeling really confident. I have lots of answers for Hatterene left. So really, Komodo in the back is the thing that I'm thinking I need to not lose to. Helping Hand will come out, Protect on Wheezing to keep the neutralizing gas around longer. Expanding Force comes out, does big damage. I get my own Expanding Force back off, which does brings the Illumise down to Sash, and then I switch out Wheezing into Weavile as you Protect and go for the Tailwind, which goes off because Prankster is reactivated when I switch out the Wheezing. And this turn really kind of started shifting the momentum. Looking at it, I switched out Wheezing. I wasn't even thinking that you might, just go for the kind of Hail Mary Tailwind there. Because, I was like, all right, Expanding Force and Dazzling Gleam, both KO Reuniclus there, and each option Oko's Wheezing if he Terras or he doesn't. It's kind of a 50-50. So I was like, all right, well, what do? I'll just kind of sack Weavile as a middle ground, maybe, and then wait for the Trick Room to go away, where I can then bring Wheezing back in. but the protect from Hatterene instead of going for an attack, and then the clicking Tailwind, even though you don't have Prankster and you're slower, and probably going down to an expanding force, was that you just making, a 1200 IQ play, or, kind of what was the thought process on that turn from your side?
I wish I could take credit for that. I think looking back at it, honestly, my first thought was, why on earth did I protect there? Why didn't I just click
Yeah.
expanding force again? Um, and I don't know. What was the terror on your wheezing?
Terra's Dark.
Okay, so maybe I was like afraid of that because like I wanted Hatterene to be around after like I had the tailwind up and like Trick Room obviously expiring that turn. Um, but I don't know. I think just to like make sure I did get the tailwind off, I probably should have just ripped the expanding force. If you burn your Terra, you burn your Terra, and then all of a sudden like Komodo can hit you. Like
Yeah.
um yeah. I don't know. Glad it worked.
Yeah, yeah, it did, and yeah, suddenly, not not too happy about the way that turned out because uh, the tailwind is really annoying for me here because now Komodo outspeeds Weavile, Hatterene outspeeds Reuniclus, and they both have potential to KO there. So suddenly, the momentum is swinging way back in your favor. So
Yeah. Yeah, I will say like as sketchy as or as risky as, the positioning or, the plays that I made were to like get to this position. Like once I'm here, like obviously 2 against 5 still looks very, very bad, but like I do feel like there is a way if I like play every single turn right. So like
yeah.
I'm scared, but I'm in this. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
All right. So like I said, tailwind a problem. Outspeeding, getting 2 KOs yourself, bringing it immediately 2 against 3. As I go out to Hatterene and Wheezing, I can't go out to Thunderous because Komodo's going to outspeed and just kill it. So I go with Wheezing and Latias, and I'm thinking, okay, I'll might have to play a little bit of a 50-50 kind of with the Terra options again, but if I get up my own Tailwind, then I should be able to kind of win from there, which is probably not the correct way of thinking. I think I started getting a little bit after the crazy Tailwind play the previous turn. I started kind of spiraling out of control of like getting a little too kind of tied up in speed control and everything. And I should have just been from here I should just be pressing kind of my numbers and offensive advantage. And as long as I can take one of these things down, I should be able to uh, get it. But yeah, I send out Wheezing and Latias here as kind of a little bit of a stall and trying to get my own Tailwind up. I'm going to take the rocks up. Terra the Latias, as you protect on Komodo, I go for my own Tailwind, Dazzling Gleam, trying to catch the Komodo, and then you set up Trick Room. From the
Yep.
crazy Tailwind to the Trick Room in Tailwind, as I set up my own Tailwind, this is such a roller coaster.
Yeah, so that turn, I mean, there was no doubt in my mind that you were clicking Tailwind there, so it seemed pretty free for me to click my own Trick Room. But even
Wow.
if like you hadn't, the most important thing was just keeping both my Pokemon alive and then, getting the um Trick Room up again because then like there's only one more turn in my Trick Room anyway, or my Tailwind anyway, and so like even if you don't get it up, like my two Pokemon are still underspeeding like most of what you have left, with the
Yeah.
exception of Weezing, which I think Hatterene can kind of dispatch on its own. So even though like it seemed like you were hard punished for clicking Tailwind there, I think like even if you hadn't, it was still relatively safe for me. It just wouldn't have been like as much of a swing as it like looked like at the moment,
Yeah, no,
So
I mean
um
that turn was a real big misplay from me. I think I should have gone for Shadow Ball into Hatterene instead of the Tailwind. Both of my Pokemon are healthy enough that they can live a single hit from Komodo, and then with like the Steel type on Latias, Weezing, being a Fairy type. If I live some hit from Komo'o. Then I take out the Hatterene. Komo'o can't pick up a double KO on the next turn. And I should be able to win the 2v1 from there. So I really should have just kept up the offensive pressure, but I did get caught up in the speed control shenanigans, and I'm gonna get punished pretty hard by now. Hatterene is the thing that's moving first on the field.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, I mean, I think just clicking Shadow Ball and Dazzling Gleam is probably like super free there, but
Yeah, I think
yeah,
it is a little risky if you Clanger's Soul there,
that's true. Yeah,
because I think with the defense boost, I mean, I think it still holds true that you can't, even if you get the throat spray boost and then you get the Omni boost, I still don't think you can pick up a double KO. So I should still be safe and able to chip you down. But yeah, no, I got caught up in the speed games, and now Expanding Force comes out, takes out Wheezing. Aurasphere, I take it better than I expected to, and here's the Shadow Ball to finally take out Hatterene, and now it's Komo'o up against Latias and Thundurus in Trick Room going first, and yeah, no, this is coming down right to the end. You're going to see you go for Protect, very smart, kind of scouting. What am I clicking with Thundurus? I'm really wishing I had Psychic on Thundurus still, but I switched it out for Flash Cannon. Lets you know whether or not you kind of have to play around Draco misses or not. But you see what I've got for you. Aurasphere takes out the Latias. I could have Helping Handed there, but I think the calcs regardless said I was going to have to try and live something, and I can't, and Komo'o picks up the comeback victory for you in a really, really exciting game.
yeah. I cannot believe I won that. Honestly, I think
Yeah.
like I required you misplaying a bit to do that because like I misplayed so hard at the beginning.
Yep.
But it is what it is. Still like I would say, pretty skillful like maneuvering from both ends
Yeah.
at various points. We just had to make some reads. Overall, they didn't go your direction towards the end, but that's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, no,
And
I will say I feel pretty it sucks because like going back through this, I'm like, yeah, no, I misplayed. I probably should have won this, but I feel good about that loss because it was just a really good match. And yeah, no, I mean, we can say I misplayed as much as we want, but all credit to you for identifying if things if I make a mistake, what do you have to do to win, and you identified it and you pulled it off. And also kind of owing to I think it's a little bit of a weakness on my part as a coach of kind of towards the end of a battle kind of losing sight of my game plans, and the getting caught up in kind of convoluted ideas. But just to show kind of the pressure of your team is not just that it is very strong offensively, but also just it has so many options and so many different ways to be scary. Like I said, Hatterene could just be attacking. It could have Trick Room. Komo'o could be attacking. It could have Clangerous Soul. There are just so many things that your opponents have to keep track of and be prepared for, not just in, team and prep, but throughout the entire battle, that it's, it's very, it definitely can lead to those kinds of misplays.
yeah. Should we play again? I definitely will not be disrespecting this matchup, given
No,
how close it
please,
was.
please disrespect it.
Yeah, I'll start by not bringing Smeargle because he's no longer on my team.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's very interesting, and like I do wonder how like if you had King Gambit, like how that would have changed things. Or I mean, just like any other kinds of calls we bring. Like if I save my Terra, on Ursaluna for Komodo or Hatterene at the end, I think like it looks a lot more
Oh,
locked
yeah.
up for me. But or even just had like a Dark Terra on the Ursaluna. Um,
Yeah.
so hard to say. Things could have been different. I got greedy, but worked out.
Yeah. All right. Well, great game. Thanks for joining me here, going over all of this stuff together.
Yeah, always a pleasure to be here. And since we were talking about it, I think I have another team to cook up at Taco Bell right after this. So
Yo, all right. Well, I'll let you get to that. And thanks to everyone at home for sticking with us through all of this. I know when I bring on a co-host, things get a bit longer, but I hope you enjoyed it because I really enjoyed that battle and enjoyed picking through it with my co-host here. Remember, you can do all the kind of YouTube things, liking, subscribing, commenting, hitting bells, whatever they have you do these days. And, well, I'll see you in the next one.